In the shadowed heart of a crumbling medieval realm, where stone castles loomed like silent judges over starving villages, corruption festered like a wound left untended. The land, once fertile and fair, now groaned under the weight of greed. The ruling lords, draped in velvet and arrogance, had long abandoned their duty to protect. Instead, they hoarded grain meant for winter stores, falsified tax rolls to squeeze every copper from widows and orphans, and traded justice for gold behind closed chamber doors. The people whispered, but never allowed. To speak was to invite ruin. And so, silence became survival. But not for Elizabeth. At 20, she was neither noble nor warrior, just a weaver's daughter with eyes too sharp for her station and a tongue that refused to stay still. She'd watched her younger brother waste away from hunger while Lord Brine's granaries overflowed. She'd seen her neighbor's home seized over a debt that didn't exist. And she'd kept quiet until she couldn't. For weeks, Elizabeth gathered proof: a torn ledger page hidden in a merchant's cart, a drunk guard's careless confession at the tavern, the testimony of a terrified scribe who slipped her a sealed note. She stitched these fragments together like threads in a tapestry of truth. And when word came that the High Court would convene in the castle courtyard to hear grievances, she knew her moment had come. She wore no armor, carried no sword, only her courage and a single lavender ribbon tied around her wrist, a gift from her mother who'd died whispering, "Speak, even if your voice shakes." The courtyard buzzed with uneasy energy. Peasants stood at the edges, heads bowed. Nobles lounged on raised benches beneath silk canopies, sipping spiced wine as if attending a festival. At the center sat Lord Reginald Vaughan, the king's appointed steward, broad-shouldered, silver-bearded, and infamous for his swift justice. A farmer pleaded for his confiscated ox. Lord Vaughan waved him away with a flick of his jeweled hand. Your beast was seized for unpaid tithe. Next. Then, Elizabeth stepped forward. She didn't run. She didn't kneel. She walked with steady steps until she stood in the very center of the stone circle, facing the lords like a lone tree before a storm. I speak not for an ox, she said, her voice clear as a bell, but for the truth you bury beneath your silks. A hush fell. Even the crows on the ramparts went quiet. Lord Brine, seated to Vaughan's right, scowled. Who is this chit? Remove her. But Elizabeth raised her chin. My name is Elizabeth of Hollowbrook. And I accuse you, Lord Brine, Lord Cale, and yes, even you, Lord Vaughan, of stealing the winter grain meant for the eastern villages. Of forging tax records to double the burden on widows. Of taking bribes from foreign merchants while our children eat bark. She pulled a crumpled parchment from her bodice. This is the ledger from your own granary, Lord Brine. It shows 300 bushels shipped to your private estate, while Hollowbrook starved. Gasps rippled through the crowd. One of the lords shifted uncomfortably. But Lord Vaughan's face darkened like thunder. You dare, he boomed, rising. A common girl, barefoot and uninvited, slandering your betters in the king's own court. This is not truth, it is treason wrapped in lies. I speak what I've seen, Elizabeth replied, unflinching. And if that is treason, then your rule is built on it. Vaughan's eyes narrowed. He turned to the captain of the guard. She has insulted the nobility, disrupted the court, and spread sedition. By ancient custom, she shall receive falaka 20 strokes upon the soles of her feet. Let the courtyard bear witness to the cost of insolence. No trial. No defense. Only punishment. Guards seized Elizabeth's arms. She didn't struggle. She knew resistance would only give them more reason to break her. Instead, she walked with them to the punishment bench. A low, scarred slab of oak stained dark with old suffering. Her shoes were yanked off. Then her thin wool stockings, revealing pale, calloused feet, small, but strong from years of walking muddy paths and standing at the loom. The autumn air bit at her skin. Around her, the crowd parted like water, some covering their children's eyes, others staring with morbid fascination. The executioner, a hulking man with a shaved head and no expression, selected a slender rod of birch, flexible yet cruel. He tested its bend with a practiced flick. "Hold her," the captain ordered. 2 guards pinned her ankles. Elizabeth lay back, her lavender ribbon fluttering against the stone. Crack. The first stroke landed with a sickening snap across both soles. Fire exploded up her legs. She sucked in a breath, teeth clamping down on her lip. Tears welled, but she blinked them back. Crack. The second stroke. She arched slightly, fingers digging into the bench. "Count them," Vaughan commanded coldly. 1, Elizabeth whispered through gritted teeth. The crowd stirred. A woman near the front turned away, sobbing. Crack. 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 By the 5th stroke, her feet were crimson. By the 10th, the skin split in places, tiny beads of blood dotting her heels and arches. Each blow sent jolts of agony through her nerves, but worse than the pain was the humiliation, the exposure, the helplessness, the lords watching like it was sport. Yet Elizabeth refused to cry out. Instead, she focused on the faces in the crowd. The baker who'd once given her stale bread. The old woman whose roof she'd helped thatch. She thought of her brother's hollow eyes. And she held on. 11, 12, 13. Her breath came in ragged gasps. Her vision blurred. But her voice, when it came, was steady. 14, she said, louder now. Lord Brian shifted in his seat. Vaughan's jaw tightened. 15, 16, a young boy in the front row wiped his eyes. A guard looked down at his boots. 17, 18. Elizabeth's body trembled, but her gaze never left the lord's. She was bleeding, broken, but not beaten. 19. She closed her eyes. Just one more. Crack. 20. The rod fell silent. For a moment, there was only the sound of wind through the courtyard arches. Then the guards released her. Elizabeth tried to stand, but her feet screamed in protest. She collapsed to her knees, palms pressing into the cold stone. Blood smeared the ground. But she lifted her head. Her face was pale, sweat-drenched, but her eyes, those fierce, unyielding eyes, locked onto Lord Vaughan's. "You think this silences me," she whispered. Then, louder, so all could hear, "Truth doesn't die with silence, it grows in it." A murmur rose among the peasants. Not loud, but present. Like the first rumble of thunder before a storm. Vaughan stood abruptly. "Take her away. And if any repeat her lies, they'll join her on that bench." Guards dragged Elizabeth toward the gate. She left twin trails of blood on the stone. But as she passed the crowd, something shifted. No one bowed their heads this time. They watched her go, not with pity, but with something new, recognition. In the days that followed, whispers turned to plans. The scribe who'd given her the ledger began copying it in secret. The baker hid grain for starving families. And in the darkest corners of Hollowbrook, people began to ask, if a girl can stand before lords and speak truth, why can't we? Elizabeth's feet would heal, though scars would remain. But her words, they had already taken root. And in a kingdom built on lies, even the smallest seed of truth could bring the whole rotten structure crashing down.